Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I was running late from work that Tuesday when I heard the laughter coming from our living room. Sarah was hosting her weekly girls' night, and I figured I'd slip in quietly through the back door. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. The universe just decided I needed to hear what my girlfriend really thought about our relationship. Okay, but seriously, came Jessica's voice as I set my briefcase down in the kitchen. How do you get David to do whatever you want? My boyfriend never listens. Oh, honey. Sarah's voice carried that tone she used when dispensing wisdom. I've got him completely trained. I know exactly how to keep him in line. I froze with my hand on the refrigerator door. Trained? Like a dog? What do you mean? Another voice asked. Men are simple creatures, Sarah continued confidently. They just want peace and sex. Control those two things, and you control them. The laughter that followed made my stomach clench. But how do you actually do it? Jessica pressed. Multiple methods. First, the silent treatment. When David steps out of line, I go completely cold and distant. He'll do anything to fix it within 48 hours. That actually works? Like a charm. He starts bringing me flowers, doing extra chores, apologizing for things he didn't even do. It's honestly pathetic how desperate men get when you withdraw attention. I carefully open my beer, trying not to make a sound. What else? Guilt trips are incredibly effective. I remind him of all the things I've sacrificed for this relationship. How I turned down that job offer because he wanted me to stay. How I could have dated that lawyer from yoga class, but chose him instead. Even though you never actually wanted that job? Jessica laughed. Details. The point is making him feel like he owes me. Keeps him grateful and willing to make up for it. My jaw tightened. That job offer. She'd told me she wasn't interested in moving, that she preferred staying local. Oh. And comparisons work beautifully, Sarah continued. I'll mention how other men treat their girlfriends. Brad took Amy to Paris. Kevin surprises Michelle with jewelry. It makes them feel inadequate and scramble to prove themselves. You're evil, someone said admiringly. What else? Physical withdrawal is the nuclear option. No touching, no kissing, definitely no sex until he apologizes and does exactly what I want. I've never met a man who could hold out longer than a week. And if he tries to argue? Public embarrassment. I'll call him out in front of friends about being selfish or inconsiderate. Men hate looking bad in public, so they'll back down immediately. What if he still doesn't get it? Tears, Sarah said with obvious pride. Crying always works. Men can't handle a crying woman. They'll promise anything just to make it stop. More laughter and clinking glasses. The key is consistency, Sarah continued. You have to train them like you train a dog. Reward good behavior, punish bad behavior, and never let them think they can get away with something. How long did it take to get David where you want him? About 6 months. He's naturally eager to please, which made it easier. Now I barely have to use these techniques because he's learned to anticipate what I want. That's amazing. I need to try this with Marcus. Just remember, the goal isn't to hurt them. It's to establish who's in charge. Once they understand the hierarchy, everything runs smoother. I stood in my own kitchen, listening to the woman I thought I loved describe our entire relationship as a systematic manipulation campaign. Every argument we'd resolved, every compromise we'd reached, every moment I'd thought we were working through issues together, all of it had been her testing and refining her control methods. I quietly retreated to my office and closed the door, reframing every interaction through this new lens. The time she'd gone silent for 3 days after I'd questioned her expensive concert ticket purchase. The guilt trip about her sister's wedding that led to me putting Hawaii flights on a credit card we couldn't afford. The comparisons to her friend's boyfriend that resulted in me trading my perfectly good car for something more expensive. Every single incident had followed the same pattern. She'd deploy a tactic. I'd scramble to fix whatever I thought was wrong, and she'd graciously accept my efforts. I thought I was being a good partner. She'd seen it as successful dog training. By the time her friends left around 10, I'd made a decision. If Sarah wanted someone she could control and manipulate, she was going to discover what happened when that someone stopped participating in the game. The next morning started normally. Sarah made coffee while I read the news, both moving through our usual routine. I'm thinking we should go to that new Italian place this weekend, she announced. Not asking, announcing. Sounds nice, I replied without looking up. She paused, clearly expecting more enthusiasm or questions. When none came, she tried again. I was thinking Saturday night. You can make reservations for 8. If you want to go Saturday, you should make reservations for whatever time works for you, I said pleasantly. What do you mean for me? Aren't you coming? I looked up, genuinely confused expression on her face. Do you want me to come? Of course I want you to come. Why wouldn't I? I don't know. You said you wanted to go, so I assumed you'd handle the details. If you want me there, just let me know what time. She stared at me, clearly thrown by my response. In the old dynamic, I would have immediately started asking about her preferences and taking over the planning. Now I was just agreeing and leaving the logistics to her. Fine, she said after a moment. I'll make the reservations. Great, I replied cheerfully, returning to my phone. The first real test came 3 days later. I'd made plans to play basketball with guys from work, something I did most Thursday evenings. Sarah had never objected before, but apparently my new independence warranted deploying the heavy artillery. I can't believe you're going out again tonight, she said as I gathered my gym bag. Again? I paused, genuinely confused. I play basketball every Thursday. You were out with friends last weekend, and you worked late twice this week. I feel like I never see you anymore. This was technique number 2, the guilt trip. The reality was that I'd grabbed dinner with a colleague on Saturday, worked late exactly once, and had been home every other evening. I'm sorry you feel that way, I said sincerely. What would you like to do tonight instead? She brightened, clearly expecting me to stay home. We could order Thai food and watch that movie I mentioned. That sounds nice. You should do that. Her face fell. What do you mean, I should do that? I mean you should order Thai food and watch your movie. I'll probably be back around 9:30 if you want to hang out then. But I want to spend time with you. And I want to play basketball with my friends. Maybe we can find a time that works for both of us this weekend. I could see her cycling through confusion, hurt, and anger as she processed this response. The old David would have seen her disappointment and immediately felt guilty. The new David recognized that her feelings were valid, but not my responsibility to fix by abandoning my own plans. Fine, she said, her voice taking on that distant tone I now recognized as the opening move of the silent treatment. Go have fun with your friends. Thanks, I will, I replied pleasantly, kissing her cheek on my way out. The silent treatment lasted exactly 43 hours. During that time, Sarah was polite but cold, answering questions with minimal responses, avoiding physical contact, and creating an atmosphere of chilly disapproval designed to make me uncomfortable enough to crack. The old David would have spent those hours increasingly anxious, trying to figure out what he'd done wrong and eventually apologizing. The new David continued his normal routine, made his own dinner when she didn't offer to cook, and generally acted like a content single person who happened to share living space with a distant roommate. By Saturday morning, her resolve was wavering. She kept shooting me looks over her coffee, waiting for me to acknowledge the tension. When I continued reading my book as if nothing was wrong, she finally cracked. Are you seriously not going to ask what's wrong? She demanded. I looked up, genuinely surprised. Is something wrong? I've barely spoken to you for 2 days. I noticed you seemed quieter than usual. I figured you were busy or thinking about something. You didn't think to ask what I was thinking about. Should I have? You seem like someone who would tell me if you wanted to talk about something. She stared at me, clearly frustrated that her nuclear option had been neutralized by my refusing to play the anxious pursuer. I was upset about Thursday night, she finally said. What about Thursday night upset you? You chose your friends over me. I set down my book and gave her my full attention. I chose to keep a commitment I made. You're welcome to feel upset about that, but I'm not sure what you want me to do with that information. I want you to care that I was upset. I do care. I'm sorry you were upset, but I'm not sure why my playing basketball would upset you in the first place. She opened her mouth to explain, then seemed to realize any explanation would sound unreasonable. In the old dynamic, she wouldn't have needed a good reason because my guilt would have kicked in automatically. I missed you, she said, switching tactics. I was only gone for 3 hours, and I was home the rest of the week. But I wanted to spend time with you that night specifically. Then you could have asked me to skip basketball this week. I probably would have said yes if you'd explained that you had something special planned. I shouldn't have to ask. You should want to spend time with me. I don't want to spend time with you. I also want to maintain my friendships. Both of those things can be true. The conversation was going completely off script from what she expected. Fine, she said eventually. But next time, Maybe think about how your choices affect me. I'll keep that in mind, I replied agreeably, returning to my book. The next test came the following week with technique number 3, the comparison trap. Sarah's friend Amy had just gotten engaged, and Sarah used this as ammunition. Amy is so lucky, she sighed dramatically while scrolling through engagement photos. Brad planned this incredible surprise proposal at sunset on the beach. He had a photographer hidden to capture everything. She waited for me to take the bait, to feel inadequate about my own romantic gestures. Instead, I just nodded. That's really nice. Amy must be thrilled. It's so romantic. Some men really know how to make a woman feel special. Another pause, another opportunity for me to feel criticized and scramble to defend myself. Brad seems like a thoughtful guy, I agreed. Her frustration was becoming visible. The ring is 2 carats. From Tiffany's. Wow, that must have been expensive. He said she was worth every penny. I could see where this was heading. In the old dynamic, I'd be feeling pressure to start shopping for rings. Instead, I just smiled. That's sweet. I'm happy for them. Over the next hour, she showed me 3 more engagement announcements, each accompanied by commentary about how romantic and thoughtful the men were. Each time, I responded with genuine happiness for the couples and 0 defensiveness. Finally, she tried a more direct approach. Jessica's boyfriend surprised her with a weekend in Napa for no reason at all. That sounds fun. Does Jessica like wine country? The point is that he thought of her and wanted to surprise her. Okay. She waited for me to connect the dots and volunteer to plan a surprise trip. When I didn't, she pushed harder. Some men just naturally think of ways to make their girlfriends happy. That's true, I agreed. Some women do that for their boyfriends too. When was the last time you surprised me with something? Now we were getting somewhere. An actual direct question instead of manipulation. I brought you those macarons from that bakery you liked last week, I replied. That's not the same thing. What kind of surprise were you hoping for? She looked frustrated. I shouldn't have to tell you. That defeats the purpose. So you want me to guess what would make you happy? I want you to want to do nice things for me without being asked. I don't want to do nice things for you. But if you have something specific in mind, you'll have to communicate that directly instead of hoping I'll read your mind. This was clearly not the conversation she'd expected. Forget it, she said, frustrated. I don't want to forget it. If there's something specific you'd like to do, tell me. We can talk about making it happen. It's not the same if I have to ask for it. Then I guess you'll have to decide what's more important, getting what you want or getting it in a specific way. She stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. The next week brought technique number 4, complete withdrawal of physical affection. I'd mentioned wanting to sign up for a woodworking class that met Saturday mornings. Sarah became completely untouchable. No casual kisses, no hand-holding, no cuddling. She'd flinch away if I got too close and find reasons to maintain distance. The old David would have spent days trying to figure out what he'd done wrong. The new David simply respected her boundaries and stopped initiating any physical contact. By day 3, she seemed increasingly puzzled by my failure to pursue her. I was pleasant and friendly, but I didn't try to bridge the physical gap she'd created. You don't seem to care that I'm upset, she said Thursday evening. I do care that you're upset. I just don't know what you want me to do about it. You could try to make things better. How would you like me to do that? I don't know. Just try? I'm not going to play guessing games, Sarah. If there's something specific I can do, tell me what it is. You really don't know what's wrong? I know you've been distant since I mentioned the woodworking class. If you don't want me to take it, just say so directly. It's not about the class. Then what is it about? You don't prioritize me anymore. In what way? She couldn't answer with specific examples because there weren't any. What I'd stopped doing was automatically sacrificing my own interests to manage her emotional responses. You've just been different lately, she said eventually. Different how? More selfish. Can you give me an example? Again, she couldn't. Because wanting to play basketball and take a woodworking class weren't actually selfish behaviors. The affection withdrawal continued for another 4 days before she seemed to realize it was having the opposite effect. Instead of making me desperate for her attention, it was teaching me to be content without physical intimacy. The final escalation came 2 weeks later with technique number 5, threatening to leave. I'd been invited to a friend's birthday party Friday night. Sarah had met the friend but didn't particularly like him, and she'd made it clear she didn't want to attend. I can't believe you're going to Jake's party without me, she said as I got ready. You said you didn't want to go, but it looks weird that you're going without me. Why would it look weird? People will wonder where I am. You can tell them you didn't feel like coming. She tried a different approach. I don't like the way some of those guys act when their girlfriends aren't around. What guys specifically, and how do they act? You know how men get in groups. They start talking about women inappropriately. I've never heard Jake or his friends do that. You just don't notice because you're a man. So you think I'm going to participate in disrespectful behavior? This was a new low. She was essentially accusing me of having no moral backbone. I guess you'll have to trust that I'll behave according to my values, I said calmly. What if I asked you not to go? Then I'd want to understand why it was important to you that I miss a friend's birthday. Because I'm uncomfortable with it. Why are you uncomfortable? Because I don't trust those guys. Do you trust me? She paused, realizing she'd painted herself into a corner. If she said no, she'd have to explain why she was dating someone she didn't trust. Of course I trust you. Then what's the problem? I don't want you to go. That's not a reason. That's just a preference. And your preference for me to skip a friend's birthday isn't more important than my preference to attend. Fine, she said, switching to the nuclear option. Go to your party. But don't expect me to be here when you get back. This was the threat to leave. In the old dynamic, this would have sent me into a panic. Where are you thinking of going? I asked conversationally. What? You said you wouldn't be here when I get back. I was wondering where you were planning to spend the evening. Probably my sister's. That sounds nice. Tell Rebecca I said hi. You're not going to try to talk me out of leaving? Why would I? You're an adult. If you want to go to your sister's house, you should go. I'm leaving because you're choosing a party over me. No, you're leaving because you don't want to be here alone for a few hours. Those are very different things. She stared at me, expecting this conversation to have gone differently. So you're really not going to change your mind? Not unless you can give me a compelling reason why I should miss a friend's birthday. Because I'm asking you to. That's not a compelling reason. She left while I was at the party. When I came home around 11, the house was empty except for a note saying she was staying at her sister's. The old David would have spent the night anxious and guilt-ridden. The new David went to bed at his normal time. She returned the next afternoon, clearly expecting to find me worried and apologetic. Instead, she found me reading in the backyard, completely untroubled. How was your sister's? I asked pleasantly. Fine, she replied, thrown by my calm demeanor. The final technique came the following week, the crying emergency. I came home to find Sarah on the couch, tears streaming down her face, looking devastated. What's wrong? I asked, sitting beside her. I can't do this anymore, she sobbed. Do what? This. Us. Everything. What happened? Nothing happened. That's the problem. You don't care about me anymore. Here it was. The emotional breakdown designed to make me panic and promise anything. Sarah, that's not true. Of course I care about you. No, you don't. You used to care about making me happy. Now you just don't. I want you to be happy, but I don't think it's my responsibility to make you happy. See? That's exactly what I mean. You don't even care that I'm crying right now. I do care that you're crying, but I need to understand what you're actually upset about. I'm upset because you've changed. You used to put me first. When did I not put you first? The basketball thing. The woodworking class. Jake's party. You never choose me anymore. I've never asked you to choose between me and your friends or hobbies. That's different. How is it different? She couldn't answer because there was no logical distinction. I feel like you don't love me anymore, she whispered, the tears increasing. This was the kill shot. The devastating emotional appeal designed to make me immediately start reassuring her. I do love you, I said gently. But I don't think love means giving up my own life to prevent you from ever feeling uncomfortable. I never asked you to give up your life. You asked me to give up basketball night because you felt lonely. You wanted me to skip the woodworking class. You wanted me to miss a friend's birthday because you were anxious. Those aren't big things. They're my things. And the pattern suggests that anything I want to do that doesn't directly benefit you is going to be a problem. She cried harder, frustrated that her emotional breakdown wasn't producing the desired result. I just want things to go back to the way they were, she said. The way they were wasn't working for me. What do you mean? I mean, I was so focused on keeping you happy that I forgot I had my own life. But you were happy. I thought I was. But I was actually just avoiding conflict by giving you whatever you wanted. And now you don't want to give me anything. Now I want to give you things because I choose to, Not because I'm afraid of what will happen if I don't. She looked up at me with red eyes. So what are you saying? I'm saying we need to figure out how to have a relationship where both people get to have opinions. I want that too. Do you? Because every time I've expressed a preference that differs from yours, you've deployed some technique to make me change my mind. What techniques? Now we were at the moment of truth. The silent treatment when I went to play basketball. The guilt trip about the woodworking class. The comparisons to other boyfriends. The withdrawal of affection. The threats to leave. The crying. Her face went pale. Those aren't techniques. Those are just reactions. Sarah, I heard your conversation with your friends 3 weeks ago. The color drained completely from her face. What conversation? The one where you explained to Jessica and Lisa exactly how you keep me in line. Where you described training me like a dog. She stared at me in horror. You were listening to a private conversation? You were having a loud conversation in our shared living room. But let's talk about what you said. I was just talking. I didn't mean most of that. Which part didn't you mean? The part where you said men are simple creatures who just want peace and sex? Or the part where you explained how to use guilt trips and silent treatments to manipulate them? She started crying again, but these tears seemed different. Less calculated, more genuinely distressed. I didn't think about it like that. I was just trying to fit in with the girls. By describing our relationship as a manipulation exercise? That's not how I see it. That's exactly how you described it. You literally used the word trained. She was quiet for a long moment. What do you want me to say? She finally whispered. I want you to be honest. About what you've been doing and why. I don't know why. I guess I learned it from watching my mom. This was the first genuine thing she'd said in weeks. Your mom manipulated your dad. She had to. He was so stubborn. She had to find ways to get him to pay attention to her needs. Did it work? For a while, until he got tired of it and left. And you thought the same techniques would work better with me? I thought all relationships worked that way, that someone had to be in charge. Sarah, do you understand why that's a problem? Because you don't like being controlled? Because it's not a relationship. It's a performance where one person pretends to have feelings to get the other person to do what they want. She looked genuinely confused. But I do have feelings. Do you? Or do you have strategies? What do you mean? When you went silent for 3 days, were you actually hurt about the basketball thing? Or were you trying to punish me? She was quiet for a long moment. I was annoyed that you didn't automatically choose me. That's not the same thing as being hurt. I know. And when you threatened to leave because I went to Jake's party, I wanted you to feel like you might lose me, so you'd stay home. So you weren't actually planning to end our relationship? No. I just wanted you to think I might. Sarah, do you understand how messed up that is? I'm starting to. You've been treating our relationship like a game where the goal is to get me to do what you want. I thought that's what relationships were. Relationships are supposed to be partnerships, where both people get to have opinions and work together to find solutions. I don't know how to do that. You start by being honest about what you actually want instead of trying to manipulate me into guessing. What if you say no? Then we talk about it. Maybe we compromise. Maybe we agree to disagree. What if we can't work it out? Then maybe we're not compatible. But at least we'd know based on honest information. She wiped her eyes and looked at me directly for the first time in weeks. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For what specifically? For treating you like a project instead of a person. For lying about my feelings to get what I wanted. For describing our relationship like I was some kind of expert manipulator. What else? For making you feel like you couldn't have your own life without it being a problem. And for never actually asking for what I wanted because I was afraid you might say no. That's a good start. Is it too late to fix this? I looked at her for a long moment. She looked genuinely remorseful and confused, like someone waking up from a dream. I don't know, I said honestly. It depends on whether you can actually change how you approach relationships. I want to try. Trying isn't enough. You'd have to actually do it. No more manipulation tactics. No more treating my preferences as problems to be solved. I can do that. Can you? Because it means giving up control. It means accepting that I might sometimes choose things you don't like. That's scary. Why? Because what if you choose things I don't like more often than things I do like? Then we'd have to figure out if we're actually compatible. What would starting over look like? It would mean learning to communicate directly. When you want to spend time together, ask for it. When you want something specific, request it. When you're upset, Talk to me about it. What if you say no to things I ask for? Then you'd have to decide if it's something you can live without or something important enough to be a deal breaker. And you'd do the same? I'd do the same. What about your friends? What do I tell them? The same thing you told me. That you were wrong, that you'd learned those techniques from your family, and that you're trying to build a healthier relationship. They're going to think I'm weak. Sarah, you were never in control. You were just creating the illusion of control by making me responsible for managing your emotions. What do you mean? Every time you deployed one of your techniques, I had to figure out how to make you feel better. You were completely dependent on my reactions. I never thought about it that way. Real control would be being happy regardless of what I choose to do. What you were doing was codependence disguised as manipulation. She was quiet for a long time. Can we try? She finally asked. Try what? Starting over. Doing it the right way. It's going to be hard. You're going to want to fall back into old patterns. I know. And I'm not going to rescue you from your own emotions anymore. If you're upset, you'll need to handle it like an adult. I understand. Do you? Because 3 weeks ago you were bragging about how well you had me trained. I'm willing to work on it. Sarah, I need more than willingness. I need evidence that you can communicate directly and treat me like a partner instead of a project. How do I prove that? By doing it. Consistently. She nodded, looking overwhelmed but determined. Can I ask you something? She said after a moment. Sure. When did you stop being afraid of me leaving? When I realized that staying in a relationship where I was constantly walking on eggshells wasn't better than being alone. That's what I was afraid of. What? That if I couldn't control you, you'd realize you didn't need me. Sarah, if the only reason someone is with you is because they're afraid to leave, that's not love. I know that now. Do you? Because I think part of you still believes that love means someone automatically prioritizing your emotions over their own life. Maybe. I'm not sure what healthy love looks like. Healthy love is choosing to be with someone even when they occasionally disappoint you. It's wanting them to be happy even when their happiness doesn't directly benefit you. That's terrifying. Why? Because it means I can't guarantee you'll stay. You couldn't guarantee that anyway. You could just create the illusion that you could. So what happens now? Now you decide if you want to learn how to be in a real relationship or if you'd rather find someone easier to manipulate. I want to learn. Then we start with something simple. Is there anything you want from me right now? Something specific? She thought for a moment. I'd like to spend tomorrow evening together. Just the two of us. What would you like to do? Maybe cook dinner together and talk about how to do this better. That sounds nice. I'd like that too. Really? Really? See how much easier that was than going silent for 3 days and hoping I'd figure out you wanted attention? She smiled for the first time in weeks. Yeah, it was easier. That's how it's supposed to work. I have a lot to learn. We both do. But at least now we're learning together instead of playing games against each other. As I watched her wiping away her tears, I realized something important had shifted. For the first time since I'd overheard that conversation, I was looking at my girlfriend instead of my adversary. The woman who had been bragging about keeping me in line was gone. In her place was someone who seemed genuinely confused about how relationships were supposed to work, but willing to figure it out honestly. Whether that would be enough remained to be seen. But for the first time in weeks, it felt like we were pointing in the same direction.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.